Hi, everybody. So today I want to introduce you to Ray, who you know, and Aubrey, who is new to all of us. And
Hello.
yeah, and I'm so excited because both of them are amazing. And we're going to talk about certain things today. So we're going to talk about the Akashic records. I pronounce it wrong a lot. And then we're also going to talk about different things that are coming in. So we've all talked about our crystalline body and how there's going to be more information available and more gifts available and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about how that's actually happening. And it's a little more like intense, but there's nothing to be scared of. So just remember that during this conversation. I think that's about it, like as far as what we're going to chat about. Who knows where it'll go, but I'm excited about all of it.
I'm excited too.
Yeah,
We've
it's going
talked
to be
about
fun. So everybody knows Ray, but we'd love to hear a little more about you, Aubrey, just telling us what you do.
Yeah, so I am an architect and grid worker and timeline worker for the collective of the planet. I'm one of the original architects that actually created the actual grid that we're existing in our consciousness in. And I'm here to basically just assist the planet in the leveling up and the ascension. That's what I do.
I think that's amazing. I'm just like, you do what? Yeah, I love that. Grid workers are amazing. So I have a question about this. When you picture the grid, what's the shape? Like, what are the shapes that are making up the grid?
So there's a lot involved. That the way that I view it is kind of a morphogenic field. So it kind of shifts between all the densities, and I mean, when I picture it, it just depends on what part of the grid I'm looking at. I do see a lot of anchor points in the core of the planet, and then as it kind of moves out, it shifts. And so a lot of what we're shifting to into the higher dimensions is a constantly moving morphogenic field. And so there's always every single person and being holds a point in the grid, and then as they move around and the grid shifts, kind of like an ecosystem around it.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love that description. I also okay, I think also some people forget that there is a difference between the auric field of the planet and the grid. So I think sometimes when people are looking for the grid, they're maybe seeing the auric field, which is a little more circular, a little more, it's still moving and morphing, but it's a little more round looking. That's my 2 cents on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important to remember that as you get into the higher dimensions, like it's just like a circle versus a sphere. You know 2D to 3D, and so like as it gets higher and higher, it gets so fractalized that it's less of a shape that is relevant, except that it's always a shape that's sort of relevant in it. It just kind of depends on where in the system you are. I see it actually like when you zoom out, that I'm seeing it more like almost mycelium or neurons and fractalization. And that's kind of how I view all of it. But it just depends on what part you're looking at.
Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Akashic records. So for me, I access them through my higher self, and I ask questions and I get pictures and words and that kind of thing, but everybody's going to get more access, and that's already happening. So
yeah, there's been a big change where the Akashic records used to be kind of a place where you'd meditate and go to, or you would like ask your higher self and you'd be going to a database. But that database has now been integrated into the grid itself. And so it is now within every single bit of our source spark is where we can now find the Akashic records. And so you can meditate in and start really having access that we have not had before. It's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. It is exciting. Well, and I feel like that's why so many more people are getting like answers that they're asking once they can just kind of calm themselves down and ask. It's kind of amazing the things they're coming up with lately.
Yeah, it really is. And the memories
Yeah.
that are coming back. And
Yeah. Well, and a lot of star seeds, I would say like probably pretty much all of them are in between 90 and 100% right now. So there's just this small percentage. So everybody's starting to integrate more and more of their information.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think it's so cool how we all access Akashic records differently, right? And we all have different kind of like visuals of it. So it's interesting. So I'll share the way that I, it's funny because I'm still kind of trying to find the words for how I do what I do. But I tune into the emotional body. That's the first thing that I do is the emotions. How does this person feel right now? And I kind of feel into that. And I feel, okay, they're feeling good here. They're feeling kind of tight here, weird here, whatever. Not just physical, but emotional, like they're feeling tense, maybe like restricting or whatever. So then I can feel, once I feel into the emotional body, then it's like I can feel into the whole like auric field. And then for me, that's kind of when the visuals start, where I see like little like strings almost going to these little points of important moments or important experiences, lifetimes. And then I pick which ones and go into that. But yeah, I love what Aubrey said, how the Akashic records are no longer a place that you go. It's not like a database. It's like integrated into the system now, into our system. And Honey's talked similar about the tube with the data that you can just pick and pluck. I think it's the same concept because our energetic fields go out, quite a ways from our bodies, at least, 8 feet total in diameter, at least. But I think bigger now. That's the old number. I think now it's more like 12 at least. Right. So if you think about that, yeah, the information's all there within that kind of spheric, not really a sphere, but that field.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's easier now because you don't have to imagine yourself going somewhere to find the information. You're just like, oh, it's here. It's right here. Let me just tune into what's around me. It's easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the divine spark, I always get that it's like right behind the belly button, living there. And that's our connection to source and our piece of source that we're carrying around. So do you feel like our connection to the records are actually within that area now? And
yeah, that's what I see. Yeah, it's really connected into the entire crystalline body. And so there are points in the general grid so that but the actual database of the Akashic records itself has been placed within the grid of your source spark. So yeah, that's where it would be. But that I feel like that is starting to move up a little bit closer to your heart chakra, and the source spark is kind of getting kind of between your solar and your heart, kind of joining them.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it.
That makes sense because we're moving up right now. Yeah.
I was immediately going to be like, what about the heart though? Let's talk about that. Because I know a lot of people assume, like myself until recently, that the heart is just the center. The heart is the center. Even though the solar plexus is the core, right? The heart is still the center field where, you attract and manifest and intentions, heart-centered healing, intuitive healing. So how does that relate to the divine spark? Let's talk about that.
Well, so a lot of the ETs that we're placing implants, we're placing one very specifically between the heart and the solar plexus, because it's a difference between I am and I love. And if there is not a good joining of those two thought forms, then that's a very easy way to control and steal and feed off of people's energy. And so what I've been seeing a lot lately is especially as those implants are all being dissolved, they're kind of being forcefully dissolved, because the difference between I am and I love is there's not really a difference anymore. It's moving more and more and more to I am love, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Well, and the spark just powers everything inside of us. So, and I can see that it would be getting bigger, like creating the whole torso in warmth, you know, like lighting a fire in there. And that's going to keep the heart warm and happy. And
absolutely.
I think that that's actually something to notice if you're if you, any person is wondering, like, am I activating my powers? Am I changing my beliefs? Like, how am I going to know? Well, your core, when you make big change, not even big, but when you start to make changes, and you start to embody more of your power, you feel it. You'll feel kind of glitter tummy, or maybe you'll feel like you worked out or something. Like your abs feel kind of like they've done work, like they've done something. Or especially for me, when I'm laying flat on my back, I can feel this activation, tension of almost like my body's getting ready to do a sit up, but like when I'm just laying there. So I think it's a pretty cool feeling. It feels almost like it feels to me how I can imagine someone would feel who has really good health and who has abs and like strong muscles. I feel like that's how they feel like all the time, but like I've never had that body before, so I'm just guessing.
No, that sounds right. Yeah. Well, and we're all kind of like moving through it in a little bit different ways, you know, but I know a lot of people have been nauseous lately too.
Me.
Yeah. So, and I feel like that the digestive system is changing.
I've noticed that too. I've even noticed my cats lately don't even want to eat a lot of meat, which has been like, like, are you guys okay? But just to eat like the food that sounds good, and the amount of food is just, I think, just universally just shifting for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to feed my dog less. Lately, because like, I don't know, she just doesn't need as much, you know. It's interesting. And we could talk too about sleep, because my sleep patterns have completely changed. And I know that, honey, you've talked in your videos before about how without the dome, basically we have a lot longer sun, and then only like a few hours of sleep or a few hours of darkness each night. So a lot of our, like, eventually, gradually, we're going to be moving to like a different sleep structure, where we have like mostly awake, maybe 4 hour, 3 hour nap, awake, and then another nap. And then, so that's, I think, already happening for some people. I think some people's bodies are already,
It is. Yeah.
Waking up super early or in the middle of the night, 2, 3, 4 a.m. and just being like, I feel like I'm supposed to get up.
Or being able to stay up later and not be as tired the next day. Like, that's how mine is kind of working now. But I have friends that like, they take like 3-hour naps here and there. Like, there's nothing.
I'm having to take 3 naps like just all the time. Like, but I also am not like having to sleep as much at night. And my sleep at night is very not restful if I try to go past a certain point, which is why then I need to take a nap later in the day. But
yeah, it's like we're breaking up our sleep. Instead of one long sleep, we're doing 2 sleeps during the days now, which I think is great. I love it, because like I go to base. I feel like I'm also more like, as soon as it gets dark, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. It's like 8:30, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm tired, and then I'll wake up at whatever, super early, like right when it starts to get light out. So I think that's another thing too, because our pineal glands are so active. They are so much more sensitive to the sunlight.
True.
Yeah. Well, and the sky is so weird lately.
Yeah.
I find it to be so weird.
I love sky lately. There are just so many beings in the sky right now, and just
Mhm.
it's getting to the
Yeah.
point where every day it's just full of just benevolent people that are here to help, and it's so cool. It's my favorite thing.
Mhm.
I think that's key
Yeah.
word, benevolent. It's full of benevolent beings. And that's the thing
Mhm.
people need to know. It's not the bad guys out there. It's the good
No.
guys.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
And I don't like to
difference.
differentiate between bad and good like that because that's not realistic. But it's the ones who are here for the highest good of all.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they're working really hard. They're working around the clock. It's just getting everything ready for us to actually make this next jump. It's really exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels really good.
Feels like Christmas.
Mhm. It is going to be Christmas, only a better way.
Exactly.
A better way than the old traditional way, which I was like, I'm not celebrating that holiday.
Yeah.
Like,
I think this is the first year I'm going to forsake celebrating all the major holidays.
Mhm.
I've already given up a few, like 4th of July, and there's a couple. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they aren't ours. They're somebody else's that was meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, bad intentions. So
Exactly.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I recently had something happen, and a lot of people know about it, and it was like a fever. So I had a fever, and during this fever, I integrated another piece of myself, or maybe, you could call it, I kind of want to talk about it as like quantum jumping, kind of. So, like, you're quantum jumping, you're saying, this is what I want. I'm going to concentrate on this. I'm going to learn this new thing, or, whatever it is, or I'm going to become abundant. And it's like, instead of you having to go to it, it's coming and integrating into you. So there's all kinds of different ways that this is happening right now. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because that just happened to me, and I feel stronger. Like, I feel stronger in my body and just stronger in general. And also not as distracted by things that are not helping me.
Mhm.
So, but that's like another aspect, another piece of a soul, another, whatever you want to call it. So I want to try and define that for people so that they're not freaked out about this happening to them.
Yeah, well, I think to understand this concept, you need to first recognize that your vessel is completely conscious, and then your higher self is a different consciousness. And when you're walking around as an avatar, like Honey or Ray or Aubrey, that's what your avatar is a marriage between soul and vessel. And so the relationship between your vessel and your soul can look a lot of different ways. And what you're talking about is what I call like a walk-in of an aspect of self. And so you are getting another level up of your higher self that's a little bit more integrated into your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's just address the whole walk-in thing, because that seems to be it's been thought of as one way, and now it's being talked about as another. So it used to be the walk-ins only consisted of one soul walks out and another walks in, and you just disappeared if you were the one that walked out. That's not really the case anymore.
Right. Well,
although that does still happen.
I think that's just the most well-known.
Yeah.
But it's always been complex, and there's always been versions of soul walk-ins and types.
Right.
But just 30-second rewind. So I like to call it a higher self integration. That's what I like to call it. When both of what y'all are talking about. The hot part of your oversoul, that's another hot keyword we could talk about. Right. Part of your oversoul, which is kind of like your higher self, is basically coming into your vessel, integrating. So yeah, higher self integration. I think that's a great I don't know. That's just the easiest way I've found to say it. But I love Aubrey. Thank you. Because Aubrey was the first person to ever tell me in those plain words of the vessel has its own consciousness. Okay. So it's like
vessels even reincarnate. Like they have their entire like life mission and life path, like over lifetimes, many lifetimes. They're very conscious.
Right. So if you think about it, we're already experiencing a soul walk-in just by being alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming to terms with our basically our personality, our inherited character traits that are just passed down from family to family, or even not just character traits, but physical things, belief systems. So we're already experiencing the same concept of soul walk-in. So what's happening now is there's basically larger versions of ourselves that might feel more foreign. They might feel like a different person. They could be an actual different soul that's not part of your consciousness, but that is going to only happen for people who are ready. For people who are ready. It's not going to happen to you if you're just like newly, you know what I mean? You have contracted and set all of this up for yourself before you came here in a way that works, makes sense, and feels good to you. Like, of course, it's going to be a little challenging and maybe painful at times, but it won't be overwhelming. You will be able to handle it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I myself am a walk-in, and I know exactly when I walked in. And when I first walked in, it was the type of situation that Honey was talking about earlier. Of the other soul walked out, and I walked in, and that was just the agreement that we had at the time. But lately, I have started braiding with another soul. So what that means is that there is another soul that is coming in, and we're working together within this avatar. And a lot of the reasons that I chose to do that was because I was spending so much time in the astral and higher dimensional realms that my human was really struggling to like be a human. And I called in a divine feminine soul to come in and help me and just like and calm me down, ground me out back, bring me back to earth. And it's been really lovely to be braiding with that soul. My life feels a lot more solid and happier.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will experience a soul walk-in in a like near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's a lot of the times it's easier to do that because the vessel's kind of like out. So it's easier to just shoot and have a lot less like physical discomfort. But typically it's a process, and typically I think most people don't have a specific day that they're like, oh, this happened and I know it. I'm also a soul walk-in multiple times and different ones, but the first time that I can, looking back now, can see is when I left the church. So all I know is that the things I experienced were feeling fed up, like I'm finally done. Like that feeling of being done, like done, no more. I will not tolerate XYZ any longer. And I will do whatever I have to do, go wherever I have to go, lose whatever friends I have to lose, cut off whoever I have to cut off in order to find the truth. I need to understand the truth. So that's for me, that's when I was 21. And so there wasn't like a specific moment, you know what I mean? It was like days and weeks of these feelings leading up to like, I got kicked out of the church, and I think I broke down and was like, okay, I think that was probably the moment, you know, when I got kicked out and was like emotional and distraught and like my whole life is over, all my friends, family, everyone's in the church. So I had to completely start over, and I was just like, all right, this is it. So I think sometimes it'll be like that. It'll feel like that. Like this is a new beginning. Like, I don't even care if I'm doing it by myself. So sometimes it'll feel like that. But then the aftermath is like feeling like you can lose a lot of friends. You can lose a lot of people.
Yeah, you suddenly won't be able to connect with a lot of people that you were connecting with.
Yeah, especially because they don't recognize you anymore. And they get confused and they kind of are like, I don't really, you're acting weird, you know? So that can happen. Dietary changes are really common, or new food allergies, or like not having food allergies that you had before, things like that. Getting new pets is a big one. Like usually right after you get a new, because you have as a more expanded version of yourself, or even a different soul in your vessel that's merging with your vessel consciousness, right? They're going to have different soulmates and familiars that want to come into their experience. So, and then also moving, physical location, like big moves, like, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to move across the country or across the world, or even if for you that just means moving across your town, and that's like a huge deal. It's something that's dramatic in your world, that feels big. Dramatic physical appearance changes, hair, chopping off the hair, changing completely how you dress. So those are some of the main, I think, signs and symptoms that you're experiencing a type of soul walk-in.
Yeah, I think that even just the way that you emotionally react to situations is one of the most telling factors. Like if you normally get really frustrated very easily, that won't completely go away because it's something that's held in the body. But the way that you like what you get frustrated at, or just the way that your emotions like react to things, it shifts entirely.
And sense of humor too.
And sense of humor, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, like certain things that were funny before, they're just like beneath you. You're like no longer entertaining.
Yeah. I no longer want to hear toilet jokes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's nothing to be afraid of. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you've already pre-planned it. So don't fear it if, but like I said in my other video, people can say, hey, we need to slow this down, or you can tell, you can communicate with these consciousnesses and say, hey, I don't know if I'm ready. Can we just wait a little long? Whatever, you have the power.
Yeah.
One of my favorite thing about the walk-in experience is that you do get to keep a lot of the lessons from the souls that were in previously. And so it's actually very coveted to have a vessel that's had a lot of walk-ins, because you get to, especially integrated souls, because you get all of their information, because your body got to integrate their information, and then you get to be in the body. And it's such a beautiful way for all of us to learn more about each other and learn each other's magic and grow and flourish all together.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because of the emotional body and the physical body. Like when I work with people's subconscious, I feel like I'm in the emotional body. And then the physical body takes on all this stuff. And that's where the injuries are, or the illnesses, or whatever. And if you can fix it here, then it fixes it here.
Exactly. But it doesn't just hold the injuries. It also holds the light,
all the good stuff. Yeah.
All the good stuff. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I like that.
Yeah.
So what else should we chat about? I want to talk about the dragons a little bit, you guys.
Yeah.
It keeps popping in. Yeah, it keeps popping into my head lately. So somebody asked me this morning, and I won't say who they are because, they didn't give me permission, but they're like, so you talked about a lifetime where you were basically, I was in a pouch of a dragon. So I was flying with a dragon, and then I married 2 dragons together. And it was like this ceremony to join clans. And it was a very like deserty lifetime where it was all like red sand and blue water and all this kind of stuff. But they're like, were we the dragons? And I'm like, ooh, what a question. Like, this is a really exciting question. And I didn't get that they were the dragons that got married, but they were the parents of one of the dragons.
Cool.
So they were dragons as well. And so they knew on some level that they were connected to that. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Pretty cool.
That's probably why it's popping up for you as well, is because they're in your sphere, and there's something to be, remembered about it.
Yeah. And these dragons were very interactive with the human beings on this planet. I don't feel like it was Earth, but it's just, the dragons are amazing. So we have to be, think about them as you would like the most ancient grandfather or grandmother that you can think of.
Yeah.
They've been doing so much work lately, and they have incredible boundaries, and they're also incredibly loyal. And so it's been really lovely to see them coming in as hard as they have right now, because there's been long periods of time where they're like, not time for us yet. Good luck, everybody. Yeah. But right now it's time, and they're here.
Yeah. It feels great. I feel like they were abused by the Anunnaki quite heavily.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
But they're more comfortable because we're moving into the fourth density. Well, we've been in it, but now we're moving into the positive part of it. It feels like.
Right.
So.
Oh, that is something I want to mention, the difference between densities and dimensions, because a lot of people are like, well, I thought we're moving into 5D. Like, what are we talking about? So my perception of this is densities is the physical, and dimension is the consciousness. So physically, we're moving into fourth density positive, right? That's what Honey's been talking about. That's our physical world, our bodies, the physical world around us is all, but the consciousness always ascends first. So consciously, we're moving into fifth dimension at collective.
Or above.
But many of us many of our souls already exist in these higher dimensions. So it's just integrating that consciousness into the physical.
Well, physicality and matter happens when there's multiple points, when there's at least 3 points of observation, and when three conscious points decide on something that something exists, and they decide all together that the same thing exists, that's when matter begins to materialize. So as we're moving through these dimensions and densities, it's just a more and more complex field of observation and just collective, like deciding on what exactly has matter, and what does matter look like, and what is in, and how that moves.
Yeah, because we're basically hollow, like we're basically light, like there's hardly anything that's actually in front of us. Like when we look in the mirror, our body is not nearly as solid as we think it is, but I think as we move up, it becomes even less solid.
Yep. Yep. And that for a while was my theory about the new earth and the splitting that people talk about. So basically, I feel that is a thing that's happening, but it's going to take like a long time, like thousands of years, not just like in our lifetime, but it's a thing where you're talking about where as we are expanding our consciousness, essentially, we become more light body, and eventually we become so light that you don't even have to have a physical form anymore. You know what I mean? You can just float, you can fly, you can what's the word, like what's that called when you just move from one, teleport, you can just teleport.
But
because you don't have a physical body, you can just, I'm here, now I'm here, I mean, so, but the thing is I think personally that's the separation between the people who are choosing fear and who are not going to the light and elevating and expanding, but they're compressing. So they're choosing fear. So they're shrinking more. And that's why I think there's going to be a separation, because basically those two energies can't exist simultaneously together anymore. They won't be aware of each other. The people in fear won't be able to perceive the light bodies, because they will exist in a completely different frequency, a completely different universe, essentially reality.
Well, and the earth is upgrading, like she's decided I'm done So I was seeing like this violet light coming out of the center of Earth and going around the toroidal field. And it just keeps going. And a lot of people have been seeing a lot of violet skies, and Elisa could actually see purple, like on the wall, basically, like the colors were changing, and she thought there was something wrong with her eyes.
I've been seeing that rainbows in weird places, and like seeing like I swear I saw a rainbow over my cat yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, was I seeing her aura? I don't know, but I saw some colors.
So, yeah. But I think the frequency is increasing. She's increasing it. She's like, I'm moving into fourth density positive. That's my destination, and I'm going. And there will be some people that I don't think will go. Like they didn't come here for that.
Absolutely. Lovely about what all the work that we've all been doing, that we're all here to witness, is that we've built into this entire system a path to ascension. So for the first time in the history of Earth, even though yes, it will be moving up, there are built-in paths, and people, if people don't get on the bus right now, the bus is coming, and the bus is still going. Like, there's no, we're not leaving anybody behind that isn't choosing to be left behind, and they can catch up as fast as they want.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to tie back what Honey just said to the soul walking thing. So Honey just said, Earth said, I'm done. Earth said, I'm done. I'm ready to ascend. That's exactly what happens with humans when we have a soul walk-in. Earth just had a soul walk-in, and Aubrey could talk about this more, but I just had to bring that up because that's the same feeling of what we feel when we have a soul walk-in. Like, I'm done. That's it. No more. We're ready to level up.
Enough of this. Yeah, absolutely. Our Earth did just barely get a new soul walk-in, and it happened maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it's been integrating ever since. But it's in a really, really, really old consciousness. It's actually the consciousness that was in the very first planet ever, and it's extremely androgynous, and it's really only here to assist in the ascension. It hasn't decided whether or not it's staying past that. But I would encourage everybody to speak to the new Earth consciousness. It's really chill, and just has so much love for everybody here. It's really very precious to be able to speak to it the way that all of you can.
Yeah, you can feel it. Like a lot of times I was like, okay, I'm gonna run back and forth because I have a bus, like a school bus, and it's my craft room because we live in a really small space right now. And I put my sauna out there, my little portable sauna. So in the morning, I'm like, oh, run, get out there and then come back. And now I'm just like, I just want to stand outside for a few minutes. You just want to stand out there and just absorb everything. And before, it was very easy just to run back and forth.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, a lot of what this new consciousness has been doing is balancing out the masculine and feminine, because we were kind of getting to the spot where both the masculine and the feminine were kind of blocking each other and just having a really hard time figuring out how to get along. And I feel like feeling the balance in that in the planet, and then feeling that in ourselves is allowing for us to smell the roses, and actually take the time to be excited about minute to minute existence.
I think so. I love that.
Minute to minute. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
This has been fun.
Yes, it has been.
Do you guys have anything else that you want to share? Do you think of anything else?
Not today.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I mean, I think everyone just needs to just relax and allow things to purge. We were talking about purging a little bit right before we started recording, but as the crystalline body is fully forming, there's going to be some stuff that gets pushed to the surface that you maybe didn't even know existed. So just keep that in mind and just know that it's a good thing, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry about it. It's a really necessary part of the process, actually. So letting ourselves break down right now and finding that safe space to do that and not freaking out if a random illness happens. It's like, don't worry about it. It's just some old stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
Or
of times it comes out as the body heals itself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people have like random angry outbursts that aren't normal because they're for them. And I've also been really impressed by how quickly I'm seeing people move through their big emotional outbursts. You know, they get to the other side very, very quickly right now because it does
Yeah.
just need to move. It just needs to move it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think just fearing the breakdown, it just delays the healing process. You know, it's like, just let it happen and get it over with and move forward. Like, let's just stop
Absolutely.
resisting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be in the
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah. In the flow.
Well, this was fantastic. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Any information from these two lovely people, I will put down in the description. So if you want to contact them, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. Thank you guys so much.
Have a good day.
Bye. Love you all.